Welcome to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. Now, Oxford Clay, I don't just make pottery, I also make books and courses for other potters who want to be more environmentally friendly in their pottery making. And that's what this podcast is all about. And I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson, and it's lovely to be back here with you on the podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about 5 surprising sources of inspiration for pottery shapes. So, obviously, pottery inspiration, it's everywhere. It can be anywhere. Quite often what will happen to me is I'll sort of be collecting ideas in my pottery, kind of the back of my mind, pottery part of my brain, and they will go together to kind of like generate an idea at some point. But I thought it would be a really good episode just to kind of bring together some kind of like surprising sources of inspiration that have like really inspired me like over the course of my pottery. Yeah, just so you know, you don't have to just be looking in like pottery books, about how to make pottery, or looking at kind of or getting taught in a class or something. There are so many sources of inspiration out there. Yeah, so we're going to be specifically talking about like pottery shapes. So this is like obviously you could be building pottery in so many different ways. You could be hand building pottery, slab building pottery, slip casting. You could be making pots on the wheel. So these are, all of these can kind of go, all of these techniques. You can, if that's what you do, and take any one of those techniques, you can be applying like these principles of inspiration to any technique, basically. So, okay, let's get on to the first source of inspiration. Okay, so the first two sources I've put down two kind of books. Um, so the first kind of genre of book is archaeology books. So archaeology books are often absolutely amazing for kind of depictions of ancient pottery, like ways of like shapes of pottery, basically. They wouldn't necessarily tell you about like the ways they were made, but they would often have depictions of like, say, like pots that were found, or like like say like maybe decoration techniques on those pots. So for example, I've actually got a book out of the library at the moment on the Oxfordshire Roman pottery industry. So this is by Christopher Young, and it's a British archaeological report number 43 from 1977. And I got this out of the library because I was just like really interested in like the Oxfordshire pottery industry. The Oxfordshire actually had like a really flourishing Roman pottery industry. So it had this really amazing type of clay that the Romans like to use. And so yeah, it's really, really interesting. And what's amazing about this archaeological report is they've actually got like literally hundreds of drawings of all the different pots that have been found, like in Oxford, or in Oxfordshire. So the really incredible thing about this is they kind of they have like a sort of cross section of the pot, and then they also have so you can see like the shape of it. But they also have like decoration. So the drawings depict the kind of the Roman decorations that they used to use. So inspiring. So inspiring for shapes. Because some of these shapes are absolutely beautiful, really high sort of I really love pottery that has like really sort of high shoulders. I think they're so beautiful, like very, really round shoulder and lovely sort of lovely rim that's been like decorated. Oh, some of these um hopefully you can see them there. They're just kind of like, yeah, like lovely big bowls with like curved sides and simple decorations just kind of like pressed in, kind of depicting like different patterns and stuff. Like circles, waves, so beautiful. So yeah, so that's the first source of inspiration. Archaeological books, and they will just show you so many different, ancient forms of pottery. I'm just interrupting this episode to tell you about a totally free guide I've made just for you on how to make a stoneware pottery glaze. So, if you've never made a glaze before, or if you make loads of glazes and you just want a recipe, this guide is for you. It tells you everything you need to know, and it's available via the link in the show notes. Let's get on with the episode. which is very, very inspiring. People have been making pottery for thousands of years, and we're part of that tradition now. So it's so cool. So the second source of inspiration are books that are about a specific sort of pottery industry. So this is kind of in a similar genre because they're kind of like they are like books, kind of history books, but they're kind of like aimed at people who might be just interested in maybe the history of that industry or like that type of pottery. For example, recently I got a book out in the library on the pool pottery industry, and it talks about like the beginnings of it, the different companies, and how like there's different workforces. I just find all that stuff like really, really interesting, like the kind of industrial process of making pottery. I just thought it was so interesting to read about. But this book had loads of pictures of like, the different things that were made in different times in that industry. And it was really, really inspiring in terms of like, the different shapes that were made in say like the 1930s or the 1940s and 50s, and yeah, so much inspiration in there for like, yeah, just the different types of shape that were kind of really connected to different eras. So these books are kind of they're really aimed at people who are interested in like the history of that industry or maybe collectors of that pottery. And yeah, a really great source of inspiration. So not necessarily something you would think like, oh, I'm doing pottery. I need to kind of, you'd probably think, oh, I need to go and like, get a book out of the library on like how to make pottery. But these are very inspiring and because they just have so many different like sort of depictions of pottery made through the ages. So yeah, and then I mean another thing to say is you don't have to be restricted to like kind of the pottery industry. There could be like say like even books on like the glass industry or something. Anything where there's a kind of shape involved. You could totally like use that as inspiration for your pottery. So yeah, loads and loads of different kind of books aimed at collectors. Yeah, glass collectors probably have some really beautiful kind of shapes. Those books about glass probably has some really beautiful shapes of glass that were made in different different like times in the glass making industry, so that we can just apply to pottery. So yeah, so that's the second source of inspiration. Then the third source, surprising source of inspiration, which we're kind of moving more less from books, more into kind of like the real life real life books are real life as well, but kind of more like a 3D type inspiration, are packaging. So this could be any packaging. This could be like plastic bottles. Like I'm gonna show you actually a really beautiful like dessert pot that I've saved because it's like got a really beautiful profile. So this is literally just a dessert that I bought from a supermarket, ate the dessert, and then like I saved a little because it's like a little kind of little bowl shape basically, and it's got a kind of a lovely kind of a rim that's really wide, and then it kind of goes in a bit, and then it's got like a beautiful curve of the side, and then it's got a really lovely like kind of ridge, and then it's got a foot. So this is something you could like replicate. You could just you could, if you're in a pottery class or something, you could like take your yogurt pot, your dessert pot like into your pottery class, and then just like have it on the wheel side of the wheel or something, and then you could copy that shape, and in your own pottery. Obviously, like making it your own, like don't know whether this yogurt pot shape is copyrighted or whatever, but you could, yeah, you're using it to kind of inspire you and to show you what shapes like work really well in terms of like that like beautiful kind of open bowl shape. That would work really well of like salad bowls or something like that. So yeah, so obviously as well to say you don't have to have something that's the same size as the thing you're making. So obviously, if you wanted to like, slip cast that or something, make a plaster mold of that, you could do that, and that would be, the same size. But then the thing you're making when you pour slip inside, obviously that would shrink and stuff, so it would not be the same size as your original thing. But you could just use the shape. If you were making a pot on the wheel, you could just use the shape as inspiration, and then you could make it any size you wanted. So that's what's really cool. It's like you're just seeing like the kind of profile of it, how the shape works, like how the feel of the pot in terms of like the curves of it, the rim, the foot. You're seeing that, and then you're kind of using it in your own work to kind of make it any size you want. You could do a series, different sizes. The world your oyster in terms of like all the different things, yeah, that you could be inspired to make from a beautiful, beautiful packaging. beautiful packaging of pots, of yogurts, of dessert. So, yeah, so like I said, packaging comes in loads and loads of different, so many different you can get cardboard packaging, for things. Say, for example, something comes in a box and it's got packaging around it. It could be like really interesting shapes packing into that. Like packaging for food. Yeah, bottles are really great source. Like water bottles are an incredible source. In fact, just when I was just showing you that book of the Oxfordshire Roman pottery industry, I noticed there were actually some waves on a pot. Just as I was talking there, I just noticed there's some waves that the Romans had like scratched into a pot, these beautiful kind of wavy designs that actually are very similar to a water bottle that I've got just in there, just like a plastic water bottle, and they're very similar, kind of like a wave design. So, it could be the shape, or it could be, the beautiful waves depicted in that shape, that you can apply to your pottery. So yeah, so packaging is an amazing source of inspiration for pottery shapes. Okay, so the fourth surprising source of inspiration for pottery shapes is cookware. So so cookware, so like cookware is, obviously a lot of time and energy has been spent by people designing cookware into like, let's make the most beautiful cookware we can. It's functional, it's beautiful, it's strong, it's all the things we want in our pottery. Those are the things that have already been thought about in cookware. So just to give you some examples of inspiration that I've been sometimes I've been inspired by cookware. So yeah, cookware. We're talking about kind of could be casserole dishes. It could be saucepans. It could be, oh well, I suppose you could even go out into kind of like Tupperware bowls, plastic bowls or something, or mixing bowls. But I've really been inspired by enamel pie dishes. So I basically saw the profile of an enamel pie dish, and I thought, oh, that would be such a good. It's a lovely open kind of open dish shape. It'd be so good to like to make dishes. Could make like soap dishes, for or like even dry shampoo dishes or something, a little bar of dry shampoo, little bar of soap. And so I started making like a similar shape in my pottery. It's like a kind of like you can get these enamel pie dishes. And some of them are like, the very smallest kind. They've got a really beautiful kind of rim, and then they've got a lovely kind of like a rounded square. Think about kind of like a rounded square dish, but all the sides are like all curved, and it's a really nice like little shape, just perfect for a soap dish. So I was inspired by that shape, and I make these like little soap dishes in my own work. Um, and then, yeah, let me show you something else I've been inspired by. This is like a saucepan. So just like a metal saucepan. I'm just holding it up there. So it's got a really beautiful, like curved base, and a really beautiful rim that's sort of holds the lid of the saucepan. It's sort of curving out, but it's got this absolutely beautiful like shoulder at the bottom, at the base. It's got a really beautiful kind of curved base of the saucepan. Um, hopefully, hopefully you can like see that on the video, but yeah, yeah, just to describe it on the podcast, it's got a really, really beautiful curved base, and it sort of goes up to if you imagine a sort of bulb, like a plant bulb or something. Like a tulip bulb type shape. It's a really beautiful shape. So I have used saucepans for the inspiration of some of the shapes that I make for like some of the planter shapes I make. So again, they've got a foot just like the kind of the saucepan does. They've got a lovely like little kind of rim that kind of folds out a little bit, and then they've got a curve that curves down to a kind of um, like a big kind of shoulder, like a base, a lovely rounded base. And I think this is such a beautiful shape for a planter, like a plant pot holder. So yeah, so saucepans really great for inspiration for planters. And so so I've thrown that pot on the wheel. And then I've done some little decorations made in a silicone mold, just like little butterflies that I've stuck on. So yeah, so so really, yeah, really amazing source of inspiration, cookware. So much of it out there. It's been designed to be like the kind of the most beautiful shape it can. It's also really functional. So it's a great source of inspiration for shapes. Like we know it works. We know it's, yeah, like I said, it's really strong. It's a beautiful shape. So great source of inspiration. And then, yeah, okay. And then the fifth and final surprising source of inspiration for pottery shapes, I just put like charity shops down. So just this isn't really like a source as such, because in a charity shop, obviously you could get so in the UK, just to say what a charity shop is, I don't know whether other parts of the world have the kind of similar kind of concept, but basically you can donate your things that you don't want anymore, and then the charity shops, loads of different charities in the UK like have them, and then they will kind of sell those goods, and then get money basically for the charity. So you just give them stuff, and then you can often get really good stuff from them as well. It'll be like a little bit cheaper than if you were buying something new, quite a lot cheaper if you're buying something new you can get. So yeah, so you can get so that's a concept of a charity shop. You can get some really interesting things at charity shops. So the amazing thing is that people donate from like, they're things that like all different eras to be able to find like really interesting things. So, all the things above that I've talked about, like archaeology books about a pottery industry, packaging, cookware, all of these things will be able to, you'll be able to find them at charity shops. But charity shops often also have really just interesting examples of pottery that maybe people have like donated. So you can take your kind of inspiration, like I said, loads of different eras as well of pottery. Take your inspiration from an actual like piece of pottery that maybe someone has donated to that charity shop. So just holding up an example for you here, it's basically like a little pot, a little ceramic pot that I found in a charity shop, and it's really beautiful. It's got like a lid, and the lid, I think what I find really interesting actually about like things from charity shops is that I love seeing how they work, like how they're put together. So say for example, if it's slip cast, you'd be able to see like how many bits it was, how the parts of the mold that was slip cast. Sometimes they might have a little seam down. And I love seeing the kind of the technical ways that like say like lids fit on, like this lid, for example, just rests on the top. And so it just literally rests on the top of the rim, and it's got a little lip that kind of goes inside inside the pot. So, you can get like really good kind of technical inspiration, but also inspiration for shapes from things that people have donated to charity shops. So, for example, this little pot, which has got a little lid, it's just a little ceramic pot. I guess it's like a kind of jewelry box or something. I have used that pot for inspiration for one of my pots, which is a little jewelry box that I've made, a really similar shape. The way the lid works is really similar, and then but I just have like a different kind of decoration. I make a kind of got like a bird and flower decoration on the top. Um, and yeah, so this part is like, inspired by that one, but then I've kind of taken the design. The little flower is made from like, and the bird just made from like silicone mold cake from the cake decorating industry, which I've talked about quite a lot on this podcast. But it's such a good way of doing like little sprigs, little like pottery sprigs on your pottery. So yeah, so charity shops, amazing source of so many different types of things in there. They're a really inspiring place to go because they just have so many different things in. I find them really inspiring. So um, yeah, okay. So I hope you enjoyed that episode of all bringing together some surprising ways of inspiration for your pottery, or inspiration for your pottery shapes in particular. So we've got archaeology books about the pottery industry, different sort of history books and books for collectors. I guess you could even use, catalogs as well for just had a sudden thought. You could even use catalogs, couldn't you, for like I've forgotten the name of it, when they basically sell things, auction houses catalogs. So they would obviously have like loads and loads of different kind of types, different drawings, photographs of different like shapes of pottery and stuff like that, or even just shapes of items, different items. Packaging, loads of amazing packaging out there, really beautiful packaging, surprising that, that are designed to be just kind of thrown away or recycled, but we can use these, take it to our pottery class, use it, be really inspired by like the shapes of that pottery. um Cookware, really amazing shapes. Again, they've been designed to be the most functional and beautiful. And charity shops, which is basically just like you probably find any of those things in the charity shop and more. So yeah. Oh well, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It's been amazing. It's been lovely talking to you about this, and wishing you very happy potting. Lots of inspiration coming your way. For inspiration for your pottery, just out there, out and about. Yeah, and really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. So I'll see you then. Goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me on that episode. And if you want to find out more about eco friendly pottery, head over to the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. Can't wait to see you there.